The courtroom was tense. Every eye in the gallery was fixed on one young man, a teenager, barely 18 years old, who had made the boldest decision of his life. He wasn't sitting beside a defense attorney. He wasn't waiting for someone else to fight for him. Instead, he was standing, alone, face to face with a seasoned prosecutor, a man who had sent dozens, maybe hundreds, of defendants to prison. And this teenager had just one weapon, his own voice. What happened next shocked everyone inside that courtroom. Gasps filled the air, because not only did he defend himself, he outsmarted the prosecutor in ways no one expected. It all began months earlier. The young man, let's call him Marcus, was arrested in connection with a burglary. He was accused of breaking into a small electronics store in his neighborhood. Police claimed they had evidence, blurry security footage, an eyewitness account, and a bag of stolen items supposedly traced back to him. The case looked grim. Prosecutors were confident. To them, Marcus was just another kid from the wrong side of town, an easy conviction. But Marcus refused to accept that. From the very beginning, he said he was innocent. He claimed he had been at a friend's house that night, miles away. But what really set his case apart wasn't just his insistence on innocence. It was his decision to fire his court-appointed lawyer and represent himself. It was a gamble most judges strongly warn against. After all, the courtroom isn't kind to inexperience. One wrong objection, one mispoint of law, and the case could collapse. But Marcus believed no one could tell his story better than him. When trial began, the atmosphere was electric. The prosecution came in confident, armed with evidence. The judge gave Marcus a cautious glance, as if silently wondering if he was about to watch a train wreck. But as soon as Marcus stood up to give his opening statement, the energy in the room shifted. He didn't sound like a lawyer, but he spoke with clarity, passion, and conviction. He told the jury that this wasn't just about evidence. It was about truth, and he promised them he would show how the case against him was built on assumptions and shaky ground. The jurors leaned in. Even the reporters in the back of the room started scribbling faster. Then came the cross-examinations, the part everyone expected Marcus to fail. The prosecutor called the eyewitness to the stand, a middle-aged man who claimed he saw Marcus running from the store the night of the burglary. Confident, the prosecutor asked the witness to point out the defendant. "He's right there," the man said, gesturing toward Marcus. It should have been damning. But Marcus wasn't shaken. He calmly approached the witness stand and began to question him. "Sir," Marcus said, "you claim you saw me that night?" "Yes," the man answered. "At what time?" "About midnight." "And how far away were you?" The man hesitated. Maybe across the street." Marcus pressed. "Across the street at midnight in the dark?" The witness shifted uncomfortably. "Well, yes, but there were street lights." Marcus walked back to his table, pulled out a large photograph, and held it up for the jury. It was of the street outside the electronics store. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, "this picture was taken just 1 week after the incident. As you can see, the nearest street light is broken. In fact, the entire corner is poorly lit. I ask you, how could this man identify anyone clearly from across the street in near total darkness?" The jury murmured. The witness froze. The prosecutor frowned. For the first time, the case didn't seem so certain. But Marcus wasn't done. Next came the bag of stolen items, supposedly tied to him. The prosecutor argued it contained fingerprints. But Marcus had studied the evidence reports carefully. When it was his turn, he asked the detective on the stand, "Detective, did you find my fingerprint on the bag?" "Yes," the detective replied. Marcus leaned forward. "Did you find anyone else's fingerprints?" The detective hesitated. "Yes, multiple others." Marcus nodded. "So you're telling this jury that this bag, supposedly mine, was touched by several people, not just me?" The detective shifted. "That's correct." Marcus turned to the jury. "Which means it could have belonged to anyone. Yet here I am, accused of ownership." Gasps rippled through the gallery. Even the judge raised an eyebrow. Day after day, Marcus poked holes in the prosecution's case. He wasn't perfect. Sometimes he stumbled over legal jargon. Sometimes the prosecutor objected, and the judge sustained. But he had one thing the prosecutor didn't: an authentic, undeniable passion for his own defense. He spoke to the jury not as a lawyer, but as a young man fighting for his life. And they listened. Finally, closing arguments arrived. The prosecutor painted Marcus as reckless, dangerous, and guilty. He urged the jury to see past the theatrics and convict. Then it was Marcus's turn. He stood, adjusted his shirt, and faced the jury with steady eyes. "You've heard the evidence," he began. "Or rather, you've heard what the prosecution wanted you to believe was evidence. But look closer. No clear fingerprints. No reliable eyewitness. Just assumptions." He paused, letting the silence stretch. "If I were guilty, why would I stand here alone, without a lawyer, risking everything? I did this because I believe in the truth, and I believe you'll see it too." The courtroom was silent. You could hear the faint hum of the air vents, the shuffle of someone shifting in their seat. And then the judge gave his final instructions, and the jury left to deliberate. Hours later, they returned. Everyone rose as the foreperson stood to read the verdict. The entire courtroom held its breath. "On the charge of burglary," the foreperson said, "we find the defendant not guilty." Gasps erupted. Marcus closed his eyes, relief washing over him. His mother sobbed quietly in the back. Even some reporters seemed stunned. The prosecutor sat stone-faced, defeated. And the judge? He leaned forward, glanced at Marcus, and gave a slight nod, as if to say, "You did what no one thought you could." Marcus walked out of that courtroom a free man. He hadn't just defended himself. He had outsmarted the system that thought it would swallow him whole. And for everyone who witnessed it, the memory of that day stayed with them forever. Because in that courtroom, against all odds, a teenager's voice proved stronger than the prosecution's entire case. And it left the world asking, what happens when the underdog refuses to stay silent?